Iowa State-style basketball. Coach Johnny Orr's Iowa State Cyclones face the roughest and the toughest teams in the nation, right here on the Cyclone Television Network. Iowa State meets Nebraska this Wednesday night at 7:30 on 5 TV. This is your TV station, 5 TV.
Of the 7 continents on Earth, only one remains unravaged by man, defying his conquest with 200-mile-an-hour winds, 100 below zero temperatures, and ice that is miles thick. Antarctica, the bottom of the world. Good evening, I'm Ted Koppel, and this is Nightline. Under the ice may be a vast treasure in oil and precious minerals. Would-be developers are already straining to exploit it. Will they succeed? And what would that mean for Antarctica? We'll take you there tonight.
This is ABC News Nightline. Reporting from Washington, Ted Koppel.
Back in March of 1867, the United States purchased a piece of real estate from Russia. The U.S. government paid $7,200,000 for a chunk of territory that we know today as Alaska. It worked out, someone calculated, to a little less than 2 cents an acre. Still, it was regarded as such a lousy deal at the time that the purchase came to be known as Seward's Folly, a mocking reference to William Seward, then Secretary of State, and the man who had negotiated the deal with the Russians. Antarctica, the focus of our broadcast tonight, is not for sale. But what happens to it, how, if at all, it is ever developed, is very much the subject of international negotiation. And just as our forefathers 120 years ago may have failed to understand the enormous potential of Alaska, so we today may do well to inform ourselves a little on the subject of Antarctica. John McWethy made a recent visit.
Every year, more than 1,000 Americans come to Antarctica, scientists and those who support them. When they step off their ski-equipped aircraft, they may as well be stepping onto another planet. Antarctica is that different, a land with an environment so hostile that it has kept civilization at bay for centuries. It is a continent that is covered with an ice sheet thousands of miles across. This is a cave in the ice of Antarctica. Right now, I'm standing about 200 feet below the top of this particular glacier. Scientists calculate in some places on this continent, the ice is a staggering 3 miles thick. 90% of all the ice in the world is right here in Antarctica. And cold, it is cold here like nowhere else on the planet. The coldest temperature ever measured in nature was recorded here, 129 below zero. The average temperature at America's South Pole Station, 55 below zero, is about what you might expect to find on the surface of Mars. It is so cold that no form of life can survive unless supported by humans. No insect, no plant, no bacteria. Even at the edges of Antarctica, where the climate is milder in relative terms, there are no trees, no grass. Lichen growing under rocks is about as high as plant life gets. But there is an abundance of marine and bird life. Literally millions of seals and penguins feed on the fish. And killer whales, if they are lucky, feed on the penguins. Though it is an environment fit for little more than penguins, for years people have fought to come here, ever since the first great race to the South Pole in 1911 between Scott and Amundsen. Scott froze to death on the way home. So why do people keep coming? For scientists, the draw is obvious.
Well, science is very interesting and very challenging, and so little has been done. Just about everything we do is something new.
I live in California, have a university that has a laboratory at Catalina Island. I could remain close to my family and do my work, and yet I come all the way to the other side of the world to study this ocean.
Okay.
Both of these scientists spend their time collecting samples of microscopic organisms that by all rights should not be able to survive in the harsh conditions, but do, establishing the base of the food chain upon which all the fish, penguins, and seals depend. But most of the Americans in Antarctica are not scientists. They have come for the adventure, some doing jobs supporting scientists as unglamorous as janitor.
It's a love for something that few people get to do, too. It's the people down here are what makes Antarctica so great, besides just the continent itself and just being able to look out over the vastness and the extremeness of it all. I think it's a really cool place.
And where do they live when they get here? Most at McMurdo, America's largest research station and support base. Most come to Antarctica during the summer, which is right now in the southern hemisphere. There is 24 hours of daylight, causing a common ailment known as big eye, where sleep becomes difficult because of the constant light. After 4 months, most people go home, but a hardy group of about 100 endure the bitter winter where there is no sunlight for 6 months. For the last 26 years, this continent has been set aside as a giant scientific laboratory by the Antarctic Treaty. The 7 nations that originally made land claims here during the first half of the century have, in essence, set them aside, allowing any nation to establish research stations wherever they please. The U.S. and Soviet Union have never made land claims, but like 16 other countries, have established year-round facilities, thus qualifying them as full voting members of the Antarctic Treaty. All nations that do research here agree not to establish military bases, conduct maneuvers, or carry arms. For more than 2 decades, it has worked.
It's a very real example of arms control, and all of the parties have adhered to it. The Soviets have adhered to it. We have adhered to it.
But pressure from a hungry, industrialized world to look more energetically for mineral resources and to more vigorously fish Antarctica's waters is becoming a problem. Oil. The U.S. Geological Survey estimates in just one location near America's main research station, there may be an enormous amount of oil, perhaps 40 billion barrels. That's comparable in size to the fields of Alaska's North Slope. Coal. Huge deposits of coal are in evidence along the few canyon walls that are not covered by ice and snow, as are large amounts of iron ore. At the moment, it is not economical to go after any of it, even in areas like the dry valleys where there is no snow and ice. In addition, there is a real reluctance on the part of scientists to even look very hard for fear of what they will find. What could create big problems would be if a scientist, while out doing other things, happened to pick up a rock and find it was not what he thought it was, but gold or diamonds. That kind of discovery could make a shambles of the Antarctic Treaty. As yet, there is no mechanism in the treaty for establishing whose gold or diamonds it would be. That question is being addressed by the treaty nations, but is far from being resolved. At the water's edge is an equally controversial part of Antarctica's potential wealth. Scientists believed for years that the Antarctic Ocean had an almost limitless supply of fish. Already, the great fleets of such countries as the Soviet Union, Poland, and Japan are fishing in these waters, and already the fishing is having an impact.
The finfish right now are of greatest concern. They are having terrible problems at the moment. Some fish stocks are actually collapsing.
And that, in turn, could have an impact on every other form of life that depends on the fish.
That this Antarctic ecosystem and the food web is much more complex than we had previously thought it to be.
Every year, the United States spends $100 million on its Antarctic research program, which is run by the National Science Foundation. The whole effort is done in the name of science, but there is more. The U.S. spends the money because it wants to maintain a large presence in Antarctica, both scientific and political. The presence is a hedge in case the treaty falls apart. If that were to happen, the U.S. would probably claim a large piece of Antarctica for its own, and the Soviets could be expected to do the same. In just 4 years, the treaty is up for review. Political maneuvering is already underway, with some nations pushing for quick development of the continent's resources, and others, such as the United States and Soviet Union, urging a more controlled approach, especially on the question of oil.
The biggest concern about the future is the industrialization of the Antarctic through mining activities, primarily offshore oil and gas development. Once people start talking about money, countries will get greedy, I'm afraid.
Many of the old Antarctic hands do not believe the oil will ever be successfully extracted from this hostile environment. They say the 200-mile-an-hour winds and the deadly cold will prevent it. They may be right. But it should not be forgotten that old Arctic hands once said exactly the same thing about the North Slope of Alaska. John McWethy for Nightline in Antarctica.
When we come back, we'll talk with Texas oilman Michel Halbouty, who sees Antarctica as the world's last great petroleum frontier. And with Kelly Rigg of Greenpeace, an activist group ready to take direct action to protect the Antarctic from uncontrolled exploitation.
This is ABC News Nightline, brought to you by Kodacolor VRG Film.
Kodacolor VRG Film, film that captures the color of life.
We're all moving to a different rhythm. Our hearts are beating to a different drum.
That's what keeps the whole world spinning.
And that's what makes the whole world fun. Don't you know we're all part of the color of life?
Unsurpassed color in print film is here. Kodacolor VRG Film.
The color of life.
I practically live out of a suitcase. So I always call 800-221-2222 and make the quality choice for great lodging anywhere. Oh, Quality Inns always gives me a big, comfortable room. The service is impeccable at Clarion Hotels. And Comfort Inn saved me lots of dollars. Franks.
Wherever you go,
Just call 800-221-2222 and you're all set, unless your luggage gets lost. This isn't Pittsburgh, is it? Thank you very much.
You bet. I'd been sleeping on a Big Sur waterbed for years when I decided I wanted something a little firmer. I nearly made the mistake of going back to a conventional bed. Instead, I came back to Big Sur for a Hibernation Series premium firm.
When you're looking for added support in a waterbed, it's the Hibernation Series. Choose from 5 different degrees of flotation support achieved with different thicknesses of DuPont fiber. The Hibernation Series, available only at Big Sur Waterbeds, America's largest.
Boys and girls from 9 to 15 years of age, this announcement is for you. You are eligible to enter the 1987 5TV All-American Soapbox Derby. February is the time to register. Your next chance to register will be February 14th and 15th at Southridge Mall. When you register, you'll see race cars and kids and find out just what's involved in being a part of the fun and excitement of the 1987 5TV All-American Soapbox Derby.
What a dog sounds like after its vocal cords have been cut. Is this any way to silence a dog? The controversy tomorrow on ABC's World News Tonight.
When demand goes up, says Michel Halbouty, environmentalists or no environmentalists, there will be drilling for oil in Antarctica. Mr. Halbouty, a petroleum engineer who heads his own energy company, joins us from our Houston station, KTRK. With us in our Washington bureau is Kelly Rigg, Antarctic Campaign Director for the Greenpeace Environmental Group, which is currently setting up its own base camp on Ross Island in Antarctica to monitor developments there. Is it not possible, Ms. Rigg, for development and environmental concerns to progress harmoniously? Can't you have both?
Not in the Antarctic.
Why not?
Well, quite simply, there is not enough land, first of all. The only 2% of the continent is ice-free, which would be the same areas where you would need to have staging facilities for any kind of exploration or development, as well as that is the same place where you would have all of the wildlife in Antarctica, penguins, seals. There is simply not room for the both of them.
I'm now really my total understanding of what Antarctica is like is what I've just seen in John McWethy's piece. So when he talks about ice that is in places 2 to 3 miles thick, you don't count that as being developable land. I mean, this is not an area where animals thrive or where the penguins thrive.
Well, certainly in those inland areas you wouldn't have the same degree of abundance of wildlife, but by the same token you would have a very difficult time trying to extract minerals in an area where the ice was 2 to 3 miles thick. If you were going to do that, I would assume you would have to melt the ice, in which case you could probably bring on a catastrophe of a global scale that we are not prepared for at all.
So in other words, if we go after oil, you destroy the wildlife. Yeah, I mean, it's that simple, you say.
I think that is the probable effect of that course of action.
All right, Mr. Halbouty, you think the time will come when that's a price worth paying?
Well, yes, I certainly disagree that the entire environmental ecosystem will be ruined because of the fact that a few wells may be drilled. Now, we've got to go back to the Arctic. By the way, Tad, my identity, I'm a geologist as well as a petroleum engineer.
Right.
And I understand the land, and I understand the background of the geology as far as Antarctica is concerned. Now, as far as drilling for oil in Antarctica, it won't be drilled on the land part, it will be drilled offshore, because all of the surveyed geological and geophysical studies that have been made in the past years have indicated large deposits of sediments offshore, and this would be the place that I think drilling would take place. It would not take place on land.
Ms. Rigg, do you agree with that? And if so, would that make a difference?
No, I agree with that as well. The problem is that if you were to have one spill, just one spill in the Antarctic, you would have a problem of the oil coming ashore, impacting the wildlife on shore, or quite worse, the oil could go under the ice cap and not be able to be cleaned up for virtually forever, which could poison the marine environment. And if you did find oil, even if it were offshore, presumably you would have to have onshore support facilities in order to get the oil back to wherever country it was being needed. Unless,
of course, it was being pumped right into tankers, and of course you have some of these super tankers that could move it right out, I suppose. Mr. Halbouty, you're the expert on oil. How would that work? Would it have to be brought on land first, or would you just pump it right onto tankers and ship it out of there?
Well, you can do both. You can pump it on tankers and ship it out, or you could also store it on land and wait for the tankers to come and pick it up. But let me say this to Miss Rigg. I don't know whether she's been on the North Slope of Alaska or not, but I've been on the North Slope before they ever had any kind of drilling whatsoever, when there was just bare land, nothing but ice and snow as far as you can see. And I have also been back to see the tremendous amount of development that has taken place. And you'd be surprised at what can be done in the Arctic. Of course, it's going to be difficult. It's a hostile environment. And even on the North Slope today, you cannot play around and think that you can get by with the environment, because it'll catch up with you. But I'll say this, as far as the drilling in Antarctica today, it would be rather foolish, because the fact the price of oil is so far down that no one would venture to drill for I would say many decades to come. But if oil is ever needed to supply the world, and if we run out, there's no question in my mind that drilling will be accomplished in the Antarctic.
All right, we're going to go on with this conversation in just a moment, and we will continue our discussion when we come back after this word.
If you're looking for a simple way to apply for the American Express card, simply pick up one of these, because now you can apply over the phone. Just call 1-800-THE-CARD.
Guess what's coming to dinner? New Le Menu Light Style. Elegant dinners like sherry glazed chicken with seasoned rice, all under 350 calories. Satisfy your taste for the good things in life with Le Menu Light Style dinners.
If you've ever watched a child striving to live as you stood helplessly by her bed, if you've ever walked the floors to comfort a child who just couldn't tell you why she cried, if you've ever stood alone in an empty nursery and wept for a child that died, then you know what we in Variety have known. Join us, won't you?
There is a disease that threatens 10 million undernourished children in the third world. It's called nutritional blindness, and every minute it robs another needy child of sight permanently. But through the Helen Keller International Child Sight Program, vitamin A supplements stop nutritional blindness. Your $20 gift can save 20 children from a life of darkness. So call now and give before another child's world disappears forever.
Smoking ain't hip, in fact it's a drag. Sucking it in's just not my bag. Smoky clothes I can do without. Whatever you're into, smoking's out. Flicking off ashes, looking like a fool. Everybody knows that smoking ain't cool, no, no, no. Look around, there's no doubt. Whatever you're into, smoking's out.
When you sleep with someone, you're sleeping with everyone they've slept with. As AIDS spreads, practicing safe sex could save your life. Watch 2020 Thursday.
Tomorrow, for the first time, the Oscar nominations live on Good Morning America. Also, Ron Reagan shoots pool with Minnesota Fats and Sly Stallone on Good Morning America.
With us again now are Michael Halbouty in Houston and Kelly Rigg in Washington. Ms. Rigg, you know, it's not just a matter of the rich wanting to get richer. I gather that it is some of the very poor nations of the world who see Antarctica as being kind of a possible leg up and out for them, particularly some of the African nations are saying, wait a second, this is an area where we could possibly at some point in the future get ourselves out of abysmal poverty. Now, I know it's a difficult kind of game to play, but how in the scale of events do you weigh the welfare of humanity against the welfare of, let me put it grossly, a few penguins and a few sea lions?
Well, I think that you have to realize that the countries that are pushing the strongest and the hardest for mining right now are not those countries that are underdeveloped. And I don't think there is much chance that that wealth is going to be shared. It's the current mining countries of the world that are going to be the first to get down to Antarctica.
Although, as we heard, it's the United States and Russia who are pushing the least at the moment, who indeed are saying, no, we shouldn't be developing.
No, that's not true. The United States is in favor of this, convention to be in place to allow mining. West Germany is pushing for it. Japan is very interested as well. There are a number of countries who are very interested, or who have constituencies that are very interested. I think the other point that should be made here is that Mr. Halbouty said that any kind of drilling that would go on would have to be done very carefully. And I think that you need to put this into the context of the current membership of the Antarctic Treaty, which is made up of 18 full voting countries who might be considered participants in any venture. Now, the United States has the most stringent environmental regulations in the world, and even in this country, we have a hard time sometimes enforcing those principles. What happens when you get countries who have very few strong environmental laws to regulate their people, even in a place like Antarctica? What happens when they go down there and they start drilling and they don't take the same care that even we might take? There's no process being set up for any kind of public comment or review on environmental impact assessment, or there is no single enforcement or compliance mechanism being built into this new treaty.
Well, all right, let me hear from Mr. Halbouty, and then I have something I'd like to follow up on that with you. Mr. Halbouty, what do you say to that?
Ted, I doubt very seriously that any type of exploitation or exploration in Antarctica would take place without a treaty agreed and signed by all parties that would take care of all environmental situations that could occur, and also lay the guidelines and the framework for such exploration.
What makes you so confident of that? I mean, as you're saying, right now with the price of oil down around $15 a barrel, there isn't that much pressure on, but let the price go up to $30 a barrel, and there's going to be enormous pressure. You really think in that kind of an environment there's going to be a careful treaty negotiated then?
I don't think $30 would do it. I don't think $40 or $50 would cause exploration in the Antarctic for oil. I think it's going to have to be a strong demand for oil. We're going to be at a stage when we're really beginning to run out. And whatever estimate is made, there's some estimates as high as 50 billion barrels of oil equivalent can be found in Antarctica. Now, when that oil is needed, then we're going to go after it regardless of what the price may be. But we're not going to do it right away. And I doubt that any drilling or any exploration will be done for minerals or for oil without guidelines and frameworks that will take care of the environmental situation as we're doing in this country today.
Ms. Rigg, it sounds to me as though if you're going to work out some kind of environmental accommodations with the developers, now's the time to do it before they get too hungry.
Well, I can tell you right now, I've seen the negotiating documents for the regime that is being developed right now, and those enforcement mechanisms are not in there. The negotiations are nearly completed, and there's no sign of those kinds of enforcement mechanisms being put into that convention. And Mr. Halbouty's position that those minerals will be gone after when they're needed is exactly what I'm afraid of, that they will be gone after, and they will be gone after at any price, at any cost. Now, to me, it seems the more prudent route would be to start looking for alternatives now. If we can foresee a day when we're going to need Antarctic oil and gas, it means we're running very low in other parts of the world. And to buy a few more years by destroying the Antarctic continent is just ridiculous. We should be...
Let me ask you to hold on just for a second, and then we'll come back to both of you for your concluding thoughts. We will continue our conversation in just a moment.
Put Macintosh in the middle of your company, and some remarkable things start to happen. Those who shoot from the hip suddenly show signs of organization, and those who live by the book show glimmers of creativity. Ideas surface from people you thought had retired. Reports that could bore the dead sparkle with graphic clarity. Your 8th floor will actually communicate with your 7th. Presentations begin to border on the flamboyant. And your most tireless worker will actually have time to take an afternoon off. And a budding genius will be found where once a face was seen. That's very good. But not heard. Very good. And one by one, each and every person in your company will begin to discover the power of Macintosh. The power to be your best.
Now you have a choice. You can live here or move to no-nonsense light support. You'll love it. I was in a test with other regular sheer energy users. More of us with a preference preferred no-nonsense light support. It invigorates and it's comfortable. It's specially tapered from toe to waist for even support all over without binding. And your legs look great. So come on.
Move to no-nonsense light support. The look, the fit, the feel. That's no-nonsense.
Of all the movies you can see this year, only one has been acclaimed by every single critic. Vincent Canby of the New York Times calls it a singular achievement, exceptionally moving. A great movie, 2 big thumbs up, say Siskel and Ebert. Mike Clark of USA Today gives it 4 stars as the year's most powerful film. See the one David Denby of New York Magazine calls a great American movie, Platoon, rated R. Now at select theaters. Opens Friday at additional theaters. Check papers for times.
Continuing our conversation now with Michael Halbouty and Kelly Rigg. What Kelly Rigg is saying, Michael Halbouty, is it's unique. I mean, you destroy it and it's gone forever. Is that worth even 50 billion barrels of oil?
I don't think that if we start drilling for oil in Antarctica, the continent will be ruined. You've got to remember that the continental margins of Antarctica are similar to in size as the continental margin of the entire North American continent. And this is a great area. And as far as drilling for petroleum is concerned in the future, if it's necessary to do so, it will be done. Because oil has been found in every other continent on Earth, and Antarctica is going to also have oil and will be found if it's drilled for.
All right, Ms. Rigg, you get the closing comment.
The oil company record on spills is not spotless. And until somebody can guarantee me that there will never be a spill there, I think nobody has any business going down there and trying to take it out and risking what there is in the Antarctic.
That sounds noble, but I mean, what are you going to do to stop it?
Keep fighting it as we've been doing for the last few years, and we'll continue to fight it.
All right.
Well, it'll be drilled. It'll be drilled in the future if it's necessary.
All right, Mr. Halbouty, Ms. Rigg, I thank you both for joining us this evening. At least we have a few years more to consider what's going to happen to Antarctica. Maybe we can even consider it carefully. Thank you both. Tomorrow on World News Tonight with Peter Jennings, John McWethy's 3-part series on Antarctica concludes with a look at the people who live there. That's our report for tonight. I'm Ted Koppel in Washington. For all of us here at ABC News, good night.
When you can't read and write, deep down in the inside of you, there's a pain, there's a hurt. And when I broke out and said, hey, I can't read, I've never been to school, that freed me. It is something that I can't explain. I'm so free. All the guilt for many years in my life now has turned into joy.
It's never too late to learn to read. If you need help, or if you can help someone else, call this number.
This has been ABC News Nightline. If you wish a printed transcript of this...
This is your TV station, 5 TV.